Hi guys, my name is Nicole, and I will be leading us together on this discussion of effective leaders in the workplace and leaders that struggle with personal issues that may affect their workplace abilities. I've written a capstone paper for my university, the University of Oklahoma, and I decided to do a presentation to better explain the knowledge I have acquired through my administrative leadership degree program. So my paper explores leaders that struggle with personal concerns that could negatively impact both their employees and their work environments. There are many great resources I was able to find while completing the research needed for this project. I will link all of the APA formatted references into the description box below, so you guys can find those articles if I mention one that you are interested in. I will also link my study in-depth paper in full into the description box, so you all are welcome to read that if you are interested. I hope you enjoy this presentation, and let's get started. So here we're going to begin with Section 1. Section 1 covers effective leaders versus ineffective leaders. Within this section, we will be discussing why effective leaders are important, how effective leaders benefit the companies they work for, and what qualities a beneficial leader possesses. Effective leaders are important in the workforce for many reasons. Effective leaders keep up with morale, inspire the best in others, and remain persistent in times of struggle. A strong leader influences a strong workforce, which leads to a strong organization. There is a really great example from one of the sources that I used in my study in-depth paper that explains leaders with a positive attitude are important in the workforce because positive emotions displayed by leaders who are high on trait positive affect are proposed to influence leadership because, and here's the important part, positive emotions convey important functional information to the follower. So that's by Joseph, Dhanani, Shen, McHugh, and McCord, 2015. I'll link that one below. That's a really good one. This means that leaders who have a positive attitude at work inspire their employees to also have a positive attitude. Furthermore, these positive emotions conveyed by the leaders express the ways in which an employee should act in the workplace. One of the most important qualities an effective leader will possess is high emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the ability of a person to pick up the emotional cues of others around them to interpret how their actions are affecting other people's emotions. An effective leader with high emotional intelligence would have a greater capacity than others to carry out sophisticated information processing about emotions and emotionally relevant stimuli, and use this information as a guide to thinking and behavior. Basically, efficient leaders that harness the power of high emotional intelligence understand that their emotions and their actions influence the actions and emotions of others. Therefore, those leaders must balance their personal stressors as well as their actions in order to positively influence those they work with. As great as effective leaders are in the workplace, we all know that not all leaders are effective. Unfortunately, some leaders are not good leaders and do not inspire those they work with to be their very best. Simply put, an individual who makes others feel sad and anxious due to his or her own sadness and anxiety is not likely to be voted into a leadership position because companies need leaders that inspire subordinates to do their best work. That is another quote from the article I just mentioned earlier. This is one of the ways companies continually improve and work towards becoming the top-rated companies in their respective fields. Luckily, many leaders start out with the best of intentions and are effective when they begin a job. After many stressors come into play both in the workplace and in their personal lives, leaders may begin to derail and become detrimental to the companies they work for. Many times, leaders may struggle with personal issues from their home lives that spill into their place of work and begin to affect their workplace abilities. Some leaders handle their personal issues and work stressors with ease, while others struggle internally to keep their workplaces balanced. We will be talking more about this scale of effective to detrimental leaders later in the presentation. The next section we're going to be looking at, section 2, includes information about social groups that leaders belong to within the workplace that affect their mentality. So this is a look into sociology. In this section, we will discuss how sociology affects leadership and how anger expression affects a workplace group. Sociology is the study of group structure, social norms, and social problems. Leaders and their employees make up teams that involve working in groups and relying on one another for support in the workplace. Leaders influence the groups they are a part of, and those same groups, in turn, also influence the leader. A leader who struggles internally can bring those struggles to work and let it disturb their leadership capabilities. Negatively influenced leadership capabilities make it difficult for subordinates to feel confident in their leader, which may make it more difficult for subordinates to bring work-related complications to their leaders for advice. In other words, if a leader lets their personal struggles from home negatively affect their workplace abilities, then the groups they work with will see that adversity and react negatively by distancing themselves from the leader. This can create many workplace issues because subordinates should feel confident about their leaders rather than anxious or nervous. These workplace groups should feel stronger around each other rather than apprehensive when in their groups. A leader with knowledge of sociology that uses that knowledge to influence the way they perform within a group can help to determine the effectiveness of the group. One of my favorite articles I read while finding my resources is by Tsai, Chung, and Tsai, 2011, called "How Do Happy Leaders Enhance Team Success?" I originally thought, well, what does happiness have to do with anything? I believe that if a leader was taught the correct and most effective ways to be a leader and simply implemented those ideas into their place of work, they would be an almost flawless leader. I was wrong. Managing and leading other people means dealing with other human beings who have their own lives outside of work. People inherently seek pleasure in their lives, and happiness is seen as pleasure. Therefore, if a leader is happy, and happiness is pleasure, and people tend to seek out pleasure, employees are more likely to seek out their leaders and hold their opinions in high regard when those leaders are seen as happy. Anger is effectively the opposite of happiness. We can all agree there. And anger occurs in social relationships when something is wrong and produces an accompanying desire for corrective action. A leader can use anger to their advantage by using it as a tool to teach their employees necessary information in order to do a better job. However, a leader that expresses anger in a forceful way without harnessing the constructive aspects of their emotions is regarded as negative. Problems begin to occur when the emotion of anger sways the leader's own emotions and makes simple work tasks more difficult than they need to be. These constructive and corrective actions that leaders will make can shape subordinates into the best employees they can be, when done appropriately. It is important for you as a leader to have respect for those you work with, recognize your own emotions, and deal with work-related struggles in an efficient way. So, when you deal with an employee that is angry, or you yourself are angry at an employee, put respect of the other human being before the problem you are trying to solve. This way, you are sure to remain focused on the situation at hand rather than on your personal emotions. So the next section, section 3, we're going to be talking about how leaders can affect their own mentality. So this is a look into psychology. In this section, we will discuss leaders that deal with depression or anxiety and leaders that deal with a stressful home life. Psychology includes the study of human mentality as well as the cognitive processes that affect behavior. People who struggle with anxiety or depression often struggle internally. Sometimes, When a leader struggles internally, they can let those struggles boil over into their workplace, and it can affect the employees that follow that leader. This means that not only will difficulties affect how the leader will perform, but the leader's own difficulties and performance will also affect the employees who rely on that leader's guidance while in the workplace. Leaders should, therefore, recognize and work on their internal or home life struggles before being able to effectively deal with the struggles of the companies they work for. One way depression and anxiety can affect leaders in the workplace is when assessing difficulties that subordinates bring to a leader. Leaders that suffer from depression or anxiety may have difficulties assessing similar situations on different days. If a leader that suffers from depression or anxiety is asked a question by a subordinate, depending on how bad they are struggling on a given day, their answers may be very different. So I wanted to provide an example. So here is an example. An employee, Alan, has been having issues with a coworker, Betty. Alan explains to his supervisor that he can't seem to get along with Betty, and it makes work more difficult for him. If the supervisor is struggling with anxiety or depression that day, they may turn away the problem until another day when they have a clearer state of mind. This means that Alan and Betty will continue to have workplace issues until the supervisor is strong enough mentally to handle and assess the situation. As a leader, it is important to be in a comfortable state of mind so you can assess workplace complications with clarity of mind and take the necessary actions required to solve these workplace complications. One thing I would like to bring up in this section is the need for leaders to be understanding of their employees. Both leaders and employees can struggle with family to work conflict and home life struggles. People with high levels of family to work conflict experience more exhaustion and cynicism at work, whereas high levels of family to work enrichment prompt more positive feelings, such as engagement at work. If a leader's place of work is more accepting of family to work conflict, that leader will feel more confident coming to work instead of feeling the need to hide their emotions. Therefore, the expression, "leave your troubles at the door," is outdated and should not be used in the workplace anymore. Human beings need reassurance and the feeling of being accepted. Empathy is an extremely important tool to use in the workplace. I encourage each of you as leaders to think about your employees' struggles as if they were your own and treat each of your employees with respect. This way you can encourage the employees to feel confident at work, and hopefully this will make you as a leader confident at work as well. We're moving on now to section 4, and section 4 includes information about ways that leaders can deal with these personal struggles. In this section, we will be discussing benefits to leaders opening up about their home life and personal struggles, and keeping up with your physical health makes it easier to keep up with your mental health. One beneficial way for leaders to manage personal concerns is to become open to the idea of discussing their concerns with someone they do not live with. This relates back to what I was explaining at the end of section 3, which is the saying, "leave your troubles at the door," is outdated and should not be used anymore in the workplace. One of the people a leader may choose to talk to can be a coworker that understands their leadership duties. Sometimes people think opening up about personal issues will leave them vulnerable or not respected because admitting you need help can be interpreted as weakness. However, openly discussing your personal vulnerabilities helps you as a leader build a strong bond and develop relationships, which are an important part of being a team. So that last quote is a quote from the Swift 2006 article, which is one of my favorite articles that I found while doing this research. The Swift 2006 article, "Personnel with Personal Problems," is another excellent article I want to highlight. This article gave me a lot of insight into my topic and a lot of good ideas to brainstorm about. Swift sums up the ideas of this section perfectly by stating, "The challenge isn't that staff members have personal problems or that they bring them to work. Instead, the problem is that staff members don't know where to turn for help within the workplace." I think that's a pretty great quote. Personal struggles happen in people's lives often, and leaders are no exception to that rule. There's another quote I want to read to you from the Swift article that really inspired me as a leader. The quote reads, "It doesn't make sense to expect staff members to work as a close-knit team and then keep their personal challenges out of the office. I think this is an incredibly insightful idea, and I want to absorb it into my own leadership style." A second way leaders can deal with personal struggles is by focusing on their physical health as a way to influence their mental health. Keeping up with your physical health can lessen the effects of depression, stress, or other mental constraints such as anxiety, as well as improve clarity of thought. Both mental and physical health are key pieces to thinking clearly and acting effectively. Regular exercise is important for keeping up with your physical health because exercise is widely regarded as a major component of a healthy lifestyle, with specific effects seen in the terms of brain function and prevention of neurodegenerative diseases. Healthy eating habits are another way to improve brain function by keeping up with your personal health. Healthy eating helps to support regular exercise by improving the results achieved when exercise is done regularly. Finally, a good night's sleep is imperative to keeping up with your physical and mental health. So we're jumping on now into section 5, which includes information on the far end of the scale and workplace bullying. In this section, we will discuss workplace bullying, harsh judgment of employees and favoritism, and how to prevent and deal with workplace bullying situations. Selecting an effective leader is the first step towards a successful business. Even when selecting an appropriate leader for position, many leaders can develop struggles after being accepted into the position. Human beings can have life-altering circumstances that change their outlooks on both life and business. Moral missteps happen along the way after leaders have been in a position of power for some time. This loss of moral bearings can prompt leaders to become abusive or manipulative. So when I think about this section and this topic, I like to think about a scale. I have pictured one for you at the bottom of this slide. On the one end of the scale, the good end, are the good leaders. So that would be the green side. That would be the leaders that are on the 10. These are the leaders with high emotional intelligence that exercise empathy and that have a good understanding of themselves and their emotions. On the other end of the scale, the red end, are the negative leaders. At the very far end, the 1 scale leaders can be corrupt, abusive, and can even commit fraud or embezzlement. This scale judges how ethical a leader may be, how empathetic a leader may be, and overall how well that leader directs those they work with. The place on the scale we will be looking at is right around 0.3. These are the leaders that are involved in workplace bullying, harsh judgment of employees, and favoritism. Leaders that struggle with personal issues can eventually become negative leaders if they do not handle their personal struggles in a timely and effective manner. Most changes will be subtle at first, but can accumulate and become disastrous if they are disregarded for too long. Favoritism, harsh judgment of employees, and workplace bullying hinder workplace productivity and should be put to a permanent end. I have been a victim of favoritism in my personal life, meaning I was not the favorite, and I have also heard many stories from customers about the workplace bullying that they have experienced. So rather than discuss ways in which workplace bullying occurs, I would like to highlight a few ways I have discovered to deal with workplace bullying. 3 ways leaders can help prevent and resolve workplace bullying include treating each employee as a special, unique individual and treating them with equal respect, implementing training programs and awareness programs, and finally, suggesting changes to the company's policies and practices existing. When a leader values each person as a unique and creative individual that deserves respect, this lessens the probability for workplace bullying to occur. Training programs and awareness programs can help to educate employees and leaders on what to do when they face a workplace bullying situation. Finally, updating and changing policies and practices that are outdated can help a company to improve their morale and lessen the chances of workplace bullying in their organizations. Calling all leaders. So now that we have gone over these main topics, I would like to ask some questions of the leadership community to get a conversation started in the comment section. I would also like to open the discussion for any questions you all might have for me. Question 1. Do you agree that the saying, "leave your problems at the door," should be eliminated within the workplace? Question 2. I advocated that it is a good practice for leaders to discuss openly their personal issues with a coworker or other leaders in the company. Do you agree? Do you, as a leader, feel comfortable discussing your home life concerns with someone at your current position? Do you believe leaders that talk about their personal struggles are viewed as weak? Why or why not? Question 3. Have you ever spent time focusing on your physical health and noticed an improvement in your clarity of thought or mental stamina? Would you ever consider focusing on your physical health as a means to improve your mental health? Question 4. Do you believe that my ideas on preventing and resolving workplace bullying would be effective in your place of work? What are some ideas you may have on preventing or eliminating workplace bullying or favoritism? We have reached the end of the presentation. I hope each one of you learned something new. I look forward very much to seeing your comments and interacting with you. I would love to get community involvement and get as many leaders from as many different fields as possible into this discussion and be able to openly discuss our ideas and our viewpoints as leaders together in a safe place. Here are some quotes from great leaders to keep you inspired. These are just 4 that keep me inspired. And the word cloud is something I learned in college that has been very helpful. So I encourage you and I urge you to look at the word cloud, look at each word individually, and think about how it relates back to leadership. Thank you guys so much for your time. Have a good evening.